We said, hey, dude, we already graduated for a national diploma, which we can still get jobs if we resign with this one, right? So 5 months later, I resigned, also resigned on his job. And then we started Skywalk Innovations. We said, look, we want to focus on smaller businesses and just provide technology solutions. And at that time, there weren't any, sort of tech that is here at the moment, looking at your Insta stores, your Facebook marketplace, where, where in deep rural areas of the country can begin. I actually learned how to skate because that was the cheapest mode of transport that I could afford. So I would skate regardless of how the weather was like in Cape Town, whether it's raining or whether it's extremely hot. So you'd skate for an hour to have a meeting with a potential client just to pitch your business.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah, so we had that extreme, challenges. And at that time, you also get the peer pressure at home that, hey, dude, you graduated. So, they are hoping that you're going to change the situation back at home. Whereas on the other side, you're not, doing that. And then some of the guys that you started with, they're starting to buy cars, their life, you can see that it is transitioning to the better. So there were a lot of events, just associated around tech. So I would attend those events just to get a snack or just to get dinner, because some of those events they'll cater, some snacks at the end of that event. So that's where sometimes I'll get that dinner just to take a break from that brown bread and peanut butter. And so yeah, that's pretty much the story. And we've been running for 9 years now. Myself and my business partner have been recognized by Forbes Africa, 30 under 30. So we made it to that list. They were looking for 30 people. I just want to emphasize this. Forbes Africa was looking for 30 people in 54 countries within the continent. 30 people. So myself and him made it to that list of 30 people.
Wow.
So, coming from, no network, no funding, no nothing, because we never received any funding from anyone to build that company and to make it to Forbes Africa. So if people doesn't know Sia, doesn't know Tyrone Adams, doesn't know Skywalk Innovations, they at least know Forbes, right? So when you bring that up, they said, okay, you know what? We don't know about, your credibility and your background and stuff, but we do know Forbes. If Forbes can, give that endorsement to you, that means you've built something really great, so we can have a conversation. So yeah, in a nutshell, that's us.
Welcome to Inspire Warriors Show. My guest today is from South Africa. This is the founder of the Skywalk Innovation South Africa, and he's here today to tell us something about his journey. I think it's very important to also highlight that this is one of the Forbes 30 under 30 companies, and during their journey, a very interesting journey, they have gone through very interesting times. And he's here today to share his story and to empower and motivate other people. So please stay tuned. Without further ado, I would like to welcome my guest today, Mr. Siyabonga Chiwana. So very much welcome. How are you otherwise?
Yeah, cool. Thanks. Thanks for having me. Again, I'm looking forward to this chat. Other than that, look, I think I'm in a good space. We started the year on a very high note, so there's so much interest on what we do, not just locally but globally. I mean, we have calls in different countries or continents almost every week, right? I'm speaking in California, New York, Nigeria, and so on. So things are looking up, and we are working on plans to grow the team. So, yeah.
Fantastic. Yes. But maybe someone wants to know, who is Siyabonga?
Cool. So I'm a young boy from a village deep in the rural areas of Mpumalanga towards the borders of Swaziland, as well as slightly closer to Mozambique as well. So I grew up that side with my mom. Unfortunately, my dad passed away when I was 8, and my brother passed away when I was in high school, essentially, right? So it was the 4 of us, and then my mom managed to raise me. to be who I am today. So I have finished high school in 2007. I spent about a couple of years trying to figure out, hey, what to do. Didn't want to go to varsity for some odd reasons because I thought varsity was a waste of time. I don't know where did I get that mentality, but I had it for some reasons. And then, I found myself, in the high field of Mpumalanga, which is close to Gauteng or Johannesburg. And I met up with someone that was studying at Cape Peninsula University of Technology and was doing software development, right? So I asked him what he was doing, and, so he told me what he was doing. He was in tech. I was like, dude, I don't care a little bit of more details. I just want to do what you were doing at the same institution where you're doing at. Next year, I'm definitely applying. That's how I found myself at Cape Peninsula University of Technology doing software development. That was in 2010.
Wow.
In a nutshell, that's me. Yeah.
So someone gave you the motivation, but you were passionate with the thing that other person was doing. So you really went for something that you wanted to do.
Yeah. So what resonated with me for that was I always liked computers. My mom bought me a desktop that was really not working. I had to fix it every day. So I got to learn a little bit more of the hardware side of things in terms of computers. I mean, from the background where I come from, we didn't have a computer lab. We didn't study anything computer related at high school, not even at primary school, worst case. So I was always fascinated about that. And then when you told me about this, I was like, you know what? There's no little bit of career guidance. So most of the careers were education or teaching, doctor, nurse, and all of those, familiar to most people. So things like, getting into tech, actuarial science and stuff like that, were not exposed to us. So because I like computers and he told me about things that they were doing in computers, I was like, you know what? I don't know much details about that, but that's where I want to see myself.
That's great.
Yeah.
And then the company came up all of a sudden.
Yes. Skywalk came up all of a sudden. So, when I was, I did my first year. On my second year, I was always, fascinated about how there's what we do and what we're learning in school, relate to a real world environment, right? So in fact, I started something at my second year level. I had a client that wanted to build an accounting software, and I had someone that actually can build a particular software, right? So I became the middleman while I was still studying. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how to invoice. I didn't know nothing really. So I got the person, the developer drove down to Mpumalanga to meet up the client, right, to gather some requirements and stuff. And then they agreed in terms of the timelines and stuff like that. And then the dev went down to build the product. Well, the client ended up not paying for some reasons. But yeah, story short, so that was my lessons there. And then carried on with school. Then I started my work. I started with an internship with a company called Growth Group. It's a UK-based company, but then they had offices in Cape Town, right, as well as Johannesburg. So I worked as an intern for 3 months, and then a month later, they gave me a permanent contract. But then at that time, I had met my business partner at school, Tyrone Adams, right, at varsity. So each and every evening, because we finished our national diploma, we graduated for that. And then now we're doing our BTech, which is the fourth year, at varsity. So we always met at the innovation lab at school, after work, because we're working full time as well as we're doing our fourth year full time as well, right? So we always met there and we always spoke about, how can we transform Africa using technology? Because at that time, I think the buzzword was around cloud computing, which it also didn't, we didn't really grasp what that means. If you take it to the granular level for a smaller business and how can they, leverage cloud computing. So we also looked at most of the solutions that were consumed by companies in South Africa or in the continent itself were mostly provided by large corporates. I mean, I'm talking about your SAP here. I'm talking about your Microsoft and so on, which were focusing on large corporates as well as government entities. at that time, smaller businesses were not that much of a target because, as you know, small businesses don't usually have the budget, for implementing solutions. So we said, hey, look, what if we build, custom open source solutions that we can customize for smaller businesses? And that was our mission when we started off. And I was working full time there, and he was also working full time for a different company. We said, hey, dude, we already graduated for a national diploma, which we can still get jobs if we resign with this one, right? So 5 months later, I resigned, also resigned on his job. And then we started Skywalk Innovations. We said, look, we want to focus on smaller businesses and just provide technology solutions. And at that time, there weren't any, sort of tech that is here at the moment, looking at your Insta stores, your Facebook marketplace, where, where in deep rural areas of the country can begin to sell stuff local as well as international. So most of those were not there at that time. So we thought it would be a niche that we could focus on. And that's how Skywalk Innovations actually got started.
Wow. And then it went, and there was a moment. What was that moment that you almost wanted to?
Yeah. Look, so we started off, and we got. We had no savings when we resigned. We had no quality network because we were fresh from varsity. Most people that gets a quality network are people that, gets into corporates for some years, move from corporates to corporates, they build a network over time. So we didn't have that really. We only had a passion, commitment, and, just crazy curiosity that we wanted to do this thing. So we started off, we're starting to get some tractions from startups or from smaller businesses within the country. We've done some booking systems for personal trainers, beauty spa treatment industries, built some websites there and there, just to get some revenue coming in, and, did some property management solutions. So we're getting a little bit of traction in Cape Town because that's where we started right? So then we realized that, we're getting some traction. We need to hire some people. Hiring people, realize smaller businesses don't usually have that particular budget. We might need to explore medium to large corporates. So I think at that time we were about 24 years old. So we approached, some of the medium-sized companies in Cape Town to see if we can potentially do some work with them. So luckily enough, Cape Peninsula University of Technology, the school where we studied at, gave us an opportunity to build a career portal for them. And we've got another one company in Waterfront, which was a decent size company, medium-sized company in Cape Town, because they were also operating in Johannesburg. So they gave us an opportunity. So that gave a little bit of stamp of approval to, next clients that we were approaching, because we're getting some good rating or credits out of the work that we've done for those guys. So some clients, they really declined us. That's the challenge that we faced. Some clients, they really declined us.
That's normal.
That's normal, So they declined us and said, dude, you look young. I was 24 at that time. Your company is operating in about a year's old. So most companies, they don't make it, post a 1 year mark or, the 3rd year mark. So it will be much more of a risk for us to trust our business, with you in terms of you, providing the technology solutions for us. But then, that didn't, discourage us. We kept on moving on. So we pushed hard. So there was a time, though, between 2015 July up to 2015 December, right? So out of the work that we've been getting from small and a little bit of medium-sized companies, so 2015 July, everything stopped, right? No new client. At that time, we needed to pay rent. It was myself that needed to pay rent. We needed to eat. So at that time, brown bread and peanut butter was for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, Monday to Monday, straight through, right? Because that's the only thing that one could afford. That's why I don't like brown bread and peanut butter lately, ever since that time. So that was the case. And, you would actually learn how to skate, because that was the cheapest mode of transport that I could afford. So I would skate regardless of how the weather was like in Cape Town, whether it's raining or whether it's extremely hot. So you'd skate for an hour to have a meeting with a potential client just to pitch your business.
Wow.
Yeah. So
wow.
Yeah, so we had that extreme, challenges. And at that time, you also get the peer pressure at home that, hey, dude, you graduated. So, they are hoping that you're going to change the situation back at home. Whereas on the other side, you're not, doing that. And then some of the guys that you started with, they're starting to buy cars, their life, you can see that it is transitioning to, to the better, which is also what we wanted. But then there was also that one drive that kept us saying, you know what, let us keep on pushing this because we believe in this dream, we can work hard. Something will definitely change. So that was July, August, September. Lucky enough, so sometimes when they say, find the best location where you can start your business, I think in Cape Town, that was the best location for us at that time because, they wanted to build this tech hub, in Cape Town, build that Silicon Valley, kind of a vibe. So there were a lot of events, just associated around tech. So I would attend those events just to get a snack or just to get dinner. Because some of those events, they'll cater, some snacks at the end of that event. So that's where sometimes I'll get that dinner just to take a break from that brown bread and peanut butter, and I realized that some of those events, sometimes you need to pay for them. So I found a strategy to say, let me go and assist in terms of the setup and marketing of that event. So that will give me a free pass to that particular event. So I've done a little bit of those. So there's, the extreme things that I've tried just to make sure that, we try to navigate around. So moving forward, 6 months down the line, I remember at home, my aunt said, we're giving you 1 month rent. By the end of this month, which was December 2015, we're going to give you a bus ticket, money to purchase a bus ticket and come back home. Which I knew that going back home, that was just going to be the end of everything. There are no opportunities. There's nothing at that time at home. So, you pray, you try everything else. So that was the first week of December, second week of December. Second week of December, people, are closing down. There are no deals that are being closed, at that time. So I saw a post which my mentor actually tagged me in that particular post. I messaged the guy, on Facebook, said, come to our office. The following day, I went to his office. We told him what we're doing. And then he said, no, bring a business partner the following day, which I did. They told us what they wanted to build. And then we gave them a quotation. I'll never forget. It was 34,000 rands. It was 34,000 rands. And I wanted 50% upfront, which was money that we never invoiced anyone at that time. So we were crossing fingers, and 50% was a lot, So cross fingers. So come 25th December, that was a Christmas day. The guy paid that 50%. That was a break through for us because I paid rent. We managed to get a little bit of proper food for Christmas and for New Year's Day. So that was a change. So we partnered with this guy to build some of the solutions that they will bring the clientele to us. So to move forward to 2016, I met up with some other guys that are doing work in Canberra in Australia. So they said they wanted to open a branch of developers in Cape Town, which they struggled to find developers, and they came across us. They said, okay, you know what? Can you outsource the work to us, and then you can do the work, and we can see how things go. They gave us a 2 months contract to see if we can do the work. A month later, they were happy with us. So they are doing identity verification at a global scale. So most of their customers were banks. So if I come to Finland and I want to open a bank account, we'll verify my documentation with the Home Affairs of South Africa to verify that I'm actually that person. So we're doing that kind of work for them. So they were happy with our work a month later. So we ended up doing work with them for about 3 years until they exited to a bigger group. So that was our breakthrough, to get an international client. And from then, the head of business development of that company moved to the US to be a CEO of 2 companies. We're still actively doing work with those companies. That was from 2017 up until today. And it got us some of the clients in the US. In that way, our company got some little bit of credibility. We're actively doing work now in Denmark, the UK, got a new client, big project that we got now in the UK that we're starting next week, Monday. So, and then in Africa as well, we're doing work in about 5 African countries, mostly in the SADC region. But then since the beginning of this year, we're exploring, Nigeria and some of the Western, in eastern parts of the African continent to potentially do work. So there is a little bit of more demand of our work because we're in the modernization and the innovation space. So, a lot of people are looking at building some products, or some companies are looking at bringing some modernization to their organization. So yeah, that's pretty much the story. And we've been running for 9 years now. Myself and my business partner have been recognized by Forbes Africa, 30 under 30. So we made it to that list. They were looking for 30 people. I just want to emphasize this. Forbes Africa was looking for 30 people in 54 countries within the continent. 30 people. So myself and him made it to that list of 30 people.
Wow.
So, coming from, no network, no funding, no nothing, because we never received any funding from anyone to build that company, and to made it to Forbes Africa. So if people doesn't know Sia, doesn't know Tyron Adams, doesn't know Skywalk Innovation, they at least know Forbes, right? So to bring that up, they said, okay, you know what? We don't know about, your credibility and your background and stuff, but we do know Forbes. If Forbes can, give that endorsement to you, that means you've built something really great, so we can have a conversation. So yeah, in a nutshell, that's us. We have a team of about 25 people. They've grown up to about 28 now, almost 30 people. Predominantly, they are in Cape Town. I've got some people here in Johannesburg as well, about 6 or 7. And then we have about 4 or 5 people that are based in Zimbabwe. So we're growing the team in different countries and cities across the continent itself. And yeah, that's us. So another layer to add, the guy that was doing the business development for the Australian client and moved to the US, his name is Marco. So we gave him, about 10% equity stake in our business, because he has helped us to, explore other markets, and has been giving some advice, into our organization on what's the best way to grow that business. But it's not just him alone that we brought him to, the advisory level. So we've got 2 more people. One is got so much experience in finance. His name is Reagan. He's based in Namibia, right? So he travels a lot between Namibia and South Africa. And then the other one is Mervin. So he's based in Cape Town. So he's got so much experience in the tech industry, building, taking some CTO roles in different organizations. So we brought these people because of what, different skill sets and experience in the market that we don't have ourselves, so that they can hold us accountable in terms of growing the team, in terms of growing the business itself. So we've got about 3 board members at the moment. We're still looking at bringing someone in legal as well as marketing as well. So we that's how our business is structured at the moment.
Fantastic. And you started without savings, and that's really something. Yeah.
I totally agree. Look, so at that time, we didn't have, people to look up into. There weren't any black-owned companies, that are building some organizations. So they were, this thing of, building unicorns, African companies, growing to IPO in New York or, stock exchange as well. So there weren't that much of that. I think this is the best time for anyone to build a tech startup, because there's so much investment that is coming to Africa. There is so much, appetite for, consumers, to explore technology. I think the COVID as well accelerated the demand and the need for exploring technology. So at that time when we started, we didn't have, most of these things that we have at the moment. So it was really, a hunger, a commitment, greed, just to make sure that you can push this thing to see it grow. So there's still so much to learn. There's still so much to explore, and we're looking forward to that journey.
Wonderful. I was wondering 2 things. First, there is that one person in the streets of whatever country, it doesn't have to be South Africa, who is sitting down, having some knowledge or passion, and would like to pursue the dream. And then there is another one who is seated there saying that my parents are poor, they don't have anything, but I know this and that. What would you tell those type of people?
Look, so that's a beautiful question, actually. So what I would say is, you need to be curious enough, right? You have to be curious about anything. You don't have to restrict your thinking about any kind of possibility, right? I think curiosity is the one that usually helps people to explore as much things as possible. Because for me, it's like, what is the possibility of me to, have R1 million, right? Or to be valued at R1 million what is the possibility for me to fly to San Francisco, right? What is the possibility? All of these things. And I never thought or imagined that, I'll be able to fly to San Francisco, to China, and all of the other countries that I've been to be valued at where we are at the moment, to have the turnover that we have at the moment. But then it started from curiosity. What's the possibility to explore those things? So I would say that's the first thing to actually explore. So, and then you shouldn't limit your thinking in terms of, if your basis of your level of thinking starts with your lack, the things that you lack, the things that you don't have, then you actually missed out the whole of opportunities that are already out there. I cannot start by thinking that, I don't have parents, I don't have this and that. So if your level of thinking starts there, it's going to be extremely difficult for you to think beyond boundaries, right? To think beyond anything that you can potentially achieve. So I think that is the first step to actually think at. And then the second thing is, this is the best time, to explore literally anything, because you can go to a KFC or a McDonald's to get access to internet, right? That might mean that you might have to take a taxi or whatever the case might be just to get to that particular. You can buy an ice cream for $5 or $10, just to get that particular opportunity to get an ice cream. And then you can get to, in some other places, there are co-working spaces and stuff like that. Or you can just put yourself out there, use platforms like LinkedIn. You can reach out to people to say, look, this is what I'm trying to achieve. This is what I'm trying to do. I'm asking for a laptop. I'm asking for a co-working space. I'm asking for mentorship. People are always keen to support and mentor and to help as much as they can potentially can, as long as they see that someone is hungry, someone has got a drive. There are a lot of platforms where you can teach yourself how to code if you want to get into space, or you can literally learn everything. There are so many platforms out there where you can learn literally everything at this day and age. You don't have to pay to go to varsity, and even going to varsity at the moment, there are a lot of funding schemes that, if you've got good grades, they can assist you in terms of, getting accommodation, getting that quality education that you can get. So I would say that don't limit yourself to the network that you have. I always believe that exposing yourself in different areas. So, in the area where I come from, there are still most people that are staying into the corner, staying in that car wash. They just don't want to expose them into different things. So if you can expose yourself in different things, you can get a lot of free ebooks, at the moment, that you can learn literally anything that you want to learn. On YouTube, you can literally learn anything that you want to learn. So I would say that think about those things. And then the one most important thing, if you really want to take something, into the next level within the area where you're actually operating at, is to think about the problems and the challenges that you're actually facing within your local area, right? So in some other provinces or in some other countries, there is an issue with electricity, there's an issue with water. Those basic needs, according to the hierarchy of needs of Maslow, those that are basic needs, right? Some other people, they're looking at internet and stuff like that. So look at the most common challenges that people actually have in your area, right? If it's electricity, there are other people that are, that are going into green energy and stuff like that. Can you say, look, I know that in a specific area, in this particular country, we are struggling with this. Can I be a reseller of your products? If you can bring that cost low, if you can build local, if you can identify a challenge that is much bigger enough, and look at the key players, even if it is, look at the big players that are playing to that particular space, see if they're willing, to subsidize some of the costs, to partner with you, to be a reseller of that particular products. I mean, if you look at into tech, Google is always, willing, Facebook is always willing, to expand, their horizons, Microsoft, AWS, those people are always there. So if you look at a challenge or a problem that is big enough, and, you go down to a drawing board, you use tools like a business model canvas, a business model generation, sort of ways to see that how can I be in a position to address this particular issue. So if you look at those, I think you'll be in a far better position, and just try to, familiarize yourself with failure. Try something, fail, move on to something else. In that way, you get to learn a lot of things. The one mistake, though, that I usually notice people do, in most communities, is that I want to build a startup, but I'm looking for funding. You cannot start building something and go look for funding at the first phase, right? People, they're always keen to fund, growing startups. So if you want to sell, you want to get into poultry farming or whatever the case might be, start small, validate that model, validate that business, grow it a little bit. Then it's much more better to say, you know what, I'm looking for X amount of funding. This is what I've tried so far. This is what I've done. This is the turnover that I'm making. This is the kind of market that I'm making. So if I can get this X amount, then I can grow the business to this. So I think if you can bring a particular story, people are always going to be open to give out funding. So those are the things that I would say. Be as curious as possible. Use as much, free tools that you can find. Explore some spaces, whether you're buying ice cream to get access to internet, do that. Reach out to people for mentorship. Read as much books as possible. Go on YouTube to learn whatever skills that is possible. There are times where you might need to do either some digital marketing for companies just to generate some revenue so that you can finance whatever dream that you have. Find problems that you can potentially address within your capacity. Explore large companies, that are willing to scale into different countries or to different markets. See if they're willing to partner with you to service a particular market where you see that there's a particular need. So it's those things that I would definitely advise them to do.
Wonderful. Start small. That's a very wise way of saying things. And finally, what makes you wake up in the morning and be the Siyabonga you are? What gets you going?
Cool. I think there are a number of things. I think the first one for, if I look at home, we grew up from a very challenging background, right? Like most people, we've experienced adversity from the very young age. So myself having that ability to build my mom a beautiful house that I built here at the moment, it gives me that excitement. And then also looking at all possible ways of how can I make sure that she doesn't have to worry about anything really, right? So we improve the financial situation that we had. So that's the first one. So the other one is my daughter. I have a 1 year, 2 months daughter. So I'm thinking, you know what, I need to change the narrative. I want to change, her upbringing and expose her to things that I was not exposed to, when I was still young. So when I'm looking at home, those are the few things that, wakes me up or keeps me awake at night. And then the other one is when I look at my career or at work. So at work is a couple of things. The one thing that we wanted to achieve was that we wanted to create the best company culture, like some of the Western companies that have created. If you look at the likes of Google and some other, well countries, well-developed countries and companies, wanted to create the best company culture because I believe this is not just South Africa alone. There are most people that wake up and go to work and they don't enjoy the culture. They don't enjoy the environment, but they work because they don't have a choice. They have to work. I was about to share a post this week. I think there are people that are working for another tech company that I do know that they go to work. All of a sudden, they are told they need to work overtime. They knock off at 10 instead of knocking off at 5. The following day, they go there. They're not sure what is going to happen. And they have nothing. They can't influence anything because they're worried about their job. They can't complain. They can't say, you know what, I'm not going to come through because they're worried about. So our thing was to create the best company culture. So we have managed to, as we're still learning and growing that, some of our team members or some of our staff, some of them, they've been approached by companies that are willing to pay twice as more, by large corporates that we can't afford to match their, salary bracket and benefits that they offer. But they say that, I'm happy not to work with Skywalk because I understand that vision that you guys have. We understand the mission that you actually on. So I'd rather stay here because there's an opportunity for growth. And we see year on year that the company is growing and we're happy with that. So we don't have that much time. Not that we don't have that much. We actually don't have staff turnover unless someone that came into us is looking for a corporate job, which they're not going to get. Those are the people that they leave. It's probably, out of the 8 to 9 years of operations, there are less than 5 people that left the company, right? So that is really great. That makes me happy because I have a one-on-one sessions with our team every month just to understand where they are. I always get a positive feedback that also makes me happy to remember why we started the organization. Then from the side of, the clientele that we serve, it makes me happy to find a smaller business that we help, a one-man show, or, someone that started, with just one client, a couple of clients, and he was running the business by himself. And then, now they've got 2 to 5 employees that are working for them. Then they had one branch. Now they've got, multiple branches. They are using technology to grow their business. So that also makes me happy. And also have someone that say, I'm working full time for an organization. Mm-hmm. I want to build a technology business, right? I've got this idea. So where we start unpicking that idea and start becoming reality to this person, we go to building that minimum viable product. We see them taking that product to the market. They started generating some revenue. They leave their corporate job, to run. So those are things that makes me happy. And then you got large corporates as well that we serve, as well as government entities, right? So, when we look at ourselves in our age, we know that with less amount of experience in the corporate space, and then we're in a position to build a solution for the bank or for a telco company, and they're quite happy with our service. I'm like, we never thought that an organization that has been operating for years, we can be in a position to build something that they really appreciate, that helps them, generate some more revenue, whatever the case might be, or automate their business processes. So those are things that at the moment that makes me happy. And then, lastly, it's, there's so much opportunities, in the tech space. There's so much to learn. There's so much to explore. So seeing our business grow to multiple countries, to multiple continents, it gives me that edge to say, let us build a business, see if we can become a unicorn. So those are things that push me.
Exactly. The sky is the limit. Yes?
Absolutely.
So the sky, as you selected your name, it might be that you had a vision. Skywalk.
I don't know how this came about, but eventually it did. So
yes.
It works out.
You're already walking on the sky. This was very, very interesting story. And I think not many times someone gets to hear the stories like this from across the world. And just by impacting a few people, it's already a highlight. Many things you have said here that you started without savings. Many times someone starts or feels like, okay, I need to start a business, but where is the capital? That's the first thing. Where is the capital? And then they don't even start to navigate and utilize what they have at hand in order to generate the picture, which can help them to get the capital. But the first thing is, where is the capital? And sometimes when they get the capital, they're just going to buy cars and not doing the business. So I think I started my businesses also without any savings. And I see that they are growing. It's just a strategy to see how you can get your first coin and how the first one generate the other one. And that's where actually you are respecting your company more. Because the more you get capital from somewhere, then you don't have that type of fighting respect towards your passion. And I think it's time for people to open up their minds and see these possibilities that nowadays, as you say, in McDonald's and everywhere, there are lots of free internet. And I would say that COVID has blessed us a lot, because nowadays you can do it on the internet, because you don't come to my country because you bring COVID. Okay, let's do it online, So these are all opportunities. And usually I speak for African diasporas whenever I finish the African talk, that wherever and for whatever we are doing anywhere, the opportunities are vast. I mean, many possibilities for connecting with the local home communities, to network with international communities where we are. I mean, it's just a matter of opening your eyes and sacrifice, because sacrificing is necessary. You learn how to skate. Oh my God. That was good for your physique, right?
Yeah.
But
that was the only option I had.
Yeah, I'm very sure some morning you wake up in the morning, you saw the skates that you really wanted to be on a car, but then you decided that I will just go. But these are the kind of things that everybody really has to hear in order to upgrade their thinking. And I must thank you a lot for sharing your story and blessing this platform. I'm really looking forward that to come to Johannesburg someday or Cape Town and see your wonderful initiatives.
Yeah, so look, you're right. So there isn't a lot of similar stories that are being shared. I think too often what we share in the public spaces or in panel discussions is all about, we always look about, scalability, we always look about, fundraising. Those are the most key topics. We always look at, what are the industries that are doing the most? Is it fintech, health tech, all of those kind of things. But then we speak less about the adversity, about the challenges that entrepreneurs actually face, right? So, and hence that, I feel like sometimes it creates that culture that, you can just be successful overnight, which that usually doesn't happen, right? You can hear, exactly.
If it happens, there is a problem.
Exactly. And I think also, with a lot of stories that are being shared, that these companies raised $5 million, these companies raised $100 million. So that, sometimes somewhat it creates that culture that, there is money out there to be raised, which there is, without a doubt. But, the company might probably have worked about 7 years or 10 years. Nobody knew about them. And all of a sudden, there was an opportunity where COVID happened, and it was an opportunity for that organization to actually shine and potentially scale up, right? So all of a sudden, it seemed as if like they just started now and then they just raised about that amount of money. So therefore, there is money out there to be raised. So I feel like there's a lot of stories that needs to be shared in terms of how people actually came about. I know, you look at your Richard Branson, you look at, all of these other people, you feel like, you doubt if they actually started from nothing, right? So people like ourselves, that comes from the deep rural areas of, South Africa. When we share stories, they are relatable to different people, right? So when I speak about, I had to learn how to skate because I didn't have a taxi fare, that story, somebody relates to them because, this person is looking for a job. So he's taking a taxi fare and he doesn't have a taxi fare, he doesn't have money to submit CVs. So, he'd have to do whatever he has to get some money, to go to an internet cafe, to pay to get access to internet so that he can apply for a job, or even just to go to an interview, So those are kind of relatable stories. And sometimes, us as entrepreneurs that sort of have achieved a certain level of success, we mislead people that we go to fancy restaurants, to fancy hotels, we buy expensive cars, so that we can show that, we have reached a certain level, which is sometimes not always the best thing to always express or show people. Is just to also share the stories that, hey, things are not always as glamorous as people also look. COVID happens, we have X amount of people, but we need to pay salaries. Myself and my business partner had to cut our salaries to zero. Right. But nobody had to be fired in our organization. Nobody had to be cut their salaries, in our organization. So those kind of stories people don't get to hear because they're like, oh, you've got people and your company is growing, So those things, they do happen, but then there's still challenges in entrepreneurship as it seems. So yeah, you're right. People don't get to hear the stories. And the other thing that you've just mentioned also, this is the best time. You can connect with someone in the US, in the UK, anywhere, literally. And people are always open, to network, to discuss, to collaborate. So I feel like this is the best time. COVID did, affect us in a way, but then it created some opportunities to create one massive global economic community to say, look, we can trade with anyone, literally anywhere within the world.
Definitely. So someone will say that you are very lucky without knowing what
you get that.
Behind the door. Thanks a lot, Siyabonga. I will let you be and continue with your busy schedules. But I thank you very much for sharing with us.
Yeah.
And I will be in touch with you because I think I'm going to host Africa Day this year as well. And my plan was to do it face-to-face, but due to the COVID uncertainties, I think I'll push it online. Okay. And there will be, the theme is diaspora inspirations. And it's going to be an afternoon thing, so your girl will be home, but no problem. we are used to have around us when we have these meetings. But I think it will be a great platform as well to speak with diasporas and people from different parts of the world. I'm expecting at least 100 people, but let's see what will happen. From all over. Last year, I had a lot of people from the Caribbean and the African Caribbean, the African Americans, Nigeria, North America, North Africa, and so. But to share your vision of expansion, I think that would be a great. I would want to really offer you a keynote speech for about 20 minutes to tell them your story and also what you're looking forward to. Because there might be good networks there, I believe.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We'll definitely be looking forward to that. I was thinking that you want to have it. I don't know how COVID will actually proceed from here, but I was hoping that I was going to travel that side, to attend that event. But nonetheless, anything that happens, at this time, I think everyone is quite flexible. But again, the vision that we have as an organization, I know we believe that we're not going to achieve or realize the vision by ourselves, but we just want to build what we call Africa 3.0, where, when I go to New York and I introduce myself as Sia, I don't feel inferior that, I come from Africa, because Africa is great, man. Africa is great. There's so much opportunities here. There's so much skill set and, people that are creating, beautiful things this side. So I don't want Africans to feel inferior when they travel to well-developed countries, but I want them to know that, as Africans in Africa, there are great things. And the other thing, in the very same vision as well, we want to encourage the mentality that we can build things by ourselves, right? Solve problems in Africa. For Africans, built by Africans, right? So we don't want, we're not keen or, looking forward to exploring partnerships and collaborations with other, startups or companies in different parts of the world. But then it will be great for us to say, if we want to get into an e-hailing business, as an example, organizations like Uber don't become the first into the African market, but then they come to compete with some African startups into that particular e-hailing business, right? So we believe that, through collaborations, through partnerships, building that particular capital so that an African startup, when they build something really great, they don't have to go to the US or to the UK or any parts of the world to raise funding, but then funds can circulate within the African market. There's so much to learn, from other parts of the world, and they also have so much to learn from us. And vice versa. So we're looking at building a particular mission. So we're looking forward to it.
Yes. Cool.
So make it happen. If there are things that maybe you would like to explore, you would like to brainstorm, we can also do some introductions. We can also do some stuff. Don't just look at us as a software development company or innovation or modernization company. There's so much that we have. There are people that we know. There are people in our network that can pull off some of the strings. They've got influence in government in different African countries. So there's just so much. I think I believe that if I have an idea or something in mind, I can just put it out there in the universe. Someone will find a way to introduce me to the right person, and eventually, I'll get help. So we are always open to that.